Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Seal of Approval. So sorry about the break that we had last week, but with all the election news and COVID, it's starting to get a little bit painful when that's the only stuff that's really in the news cycle. So this week is a bit of a different one. Like we've got stories, but then it's more funny than anything else. But joining me this week, as always, is Scrump. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Not to shill too early, but as some people probably noticed last week, I did a bit of a replacement stream, actually on my own channel for once. People have been nagging me to do that for years, literally years. So yeah, finally doing that. So I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, and there's a link to Scrump's channel in the description below. So if you haven't already, I've done intense shilling for your channel.
Thank you very much.
I've on Twitter and on YouTube. So yeah, expect them all. It's like when Blair kind of told people to subscribe to me. I'm passing it down the food chain. You can have some of my scraps. And joining me again this week is Louis. How are you?
I'm good.
And
succinct as always.
Yep.
Otherwise known as Pastor Louis.
Yes.
Of his lengthy. I'd call them sermons. I actually would call them sermons.
More and more people are.
Dear.
And so, as you can see, we're also joined by a seal in a car being driven by a guy wearing a baboon mask for some reason.
He's Rafiki. He's going to get his stick.
My boyfriend sent this to me just before I went on air, and I just love how chill the seal is being driven around by this guy in a monkey mask.
The seal looks like he's having a great. It looks like a dog, and they look like dogs in cars. This really just brings home that seals are water dogs.
I mean, they are. I mean, seals are water dogs, and dogs are land seals. I constantly maintain that.
It's a mandrill, apparently.
Mandrill. I almost said Mandarin before, but that's why I ended up going with baboon.
I don't know. Someone out there is having their monkey autism. They know all the species. They're some kind of biologist.
So I want to start this week off by a story that I came across today, actually, posted by Andy No, about a violent Portland AntiFur activist who's been ID'd as a 35-year-old trans woman. So,
oh my god, they really do look like the person from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. So there they are up close. So let me get a picture of exactly what this person has transitioned to.
Please don't.
The fucking balaclava. The badly put on wonky balaclava there.
Just look at you've seen that picture. Just look at this.
We can't know that.
Oh, I thought you were being serious.
Literally that. That's what they've transitioned to, and this is not someone who has only just kind of started a transition. This is someone who has been around for about a good 10 years at this time. So basically, Andy's reported on this GIMP. Isabel Rosa Araujo, formerly known, I'm just going to call him Phil, Philip Vincent Haskins-Delici, a 35-year-old Portland-based transsexual AntiFur militant with a history of extremism. Now, Andy refers to this person as a woman throughout, but no.
Pronoun status revoked.
Yes. I always maintain, if you want them pronouns, you need to do some sort of effort. And apparently this person has done one bit of effort. And it's quite an extreme one. But I don't give a shit because just no. So if you see, they've got a tattoo saying evil trans underneath their neck.
They look like something you would make up if you were trying to make a point.
I agree.
Yes.
They look like a something from a Stone Toss cartoon, or Something Ben Garrison would draw.
Well, it's effectively Poe's law. It's Poe's law in human form. So here's another photo.
Human Poe.
Yeah, let me find another. I've got another photo of them. So here is another recent photo. So you can see there's a tattoo that looks like it says something in Spanish with one word that looks like pedo. They have a AntiFur flag. They have a weird number. I don't know what that number means, but I don't see how anyone can look at that and think this is a woman. But you probably, I think you guys have seen this person before. I think you've seen. Have you ever come across this picture?
Oh my god!
My god!
Oh, they've degraded further.
No way.
Yep, this is one and the same. So this is Phil 10 years ago at the Occupy protests.
Wow.
Yeah, so just to give a little bit of background on Phil and basically who he is a self-avowed Maoist communist activist. He has been unemployed now for about 10 years, I think. He says he lost his job just before the Occupy protests, which he went along to. There's an amazing video. I can't show it because I still don't know how to do sound through screen yet.
I was 18 when this guy lost his job.
Yeah, that's was I.
It's just, oh my god!
I think I was 17. I think I was 17.
I was just finishing like sixth form. Jesus Christ!
Yeah. So he decided. So actually, he decided to quit his job. He decided to quit. He quit his job when he became focused on communism in 2010, and shortly afterwards, he announced that he was a transgender person. Basically, after some fairly weird relationships, because that seems to be always how this happens in leftist circles. These people never just come out as being trans because that's who they are. There's always some sort of social contagion that makes them come out. So he went along to that process. He was photographed. He was interviewed. There's quite a funny interview that I watched where the person asks it. He talks about his admiration for Chairman Mao, and the interviewer points out like how well he would have fared under Mao. Mao was not really a friend of the gays.
No, like the Chinese to this day are hardcore materialists, and any kind of social deviancy, they will. I mean, back then they just would have straight up shot him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. Like he probably wouldn't even have made it into a gulag.
No,
like he would have been like at most anyway.
In Russia, they would have gulagged him, but
Russia.
Yeah, he would have been gulagged, and today in China, he would be sent to a concentration camp. But back in the day, under Mao, or even the guy after Mao, they just would have straight up shot him.
This is perfect. I don't know if you probably want to join me on this rant, Louis, but this is perfect evidence that we need to allow people who don't work to actually starve sometimes. This is perfect evidence that we don't have enough. I don't know what some people might refer to as social Darwinism. That's a bit spicy. I'm not going to say that. But it's
yes.
The harder you look at means testing for all the social welfare programs, which is what a lot of people do. They say, "Oh, well, there is fraud, this and that, but we need to means test these programs." The harder you look, the more you realize that a lot of what is just going on is fraud by degrees. So if you actually means test the program, you're going to eliminate possibly the majority of the people on it. And at that point, is it even worth having the program?
I don't know. There's got to be something, because there's a lot of these professional activists who subsist on either just the state or that sweet NGO Soros money. Yeah. That's really their two sources of income. It's also perfect proof that this whole quote unquote movement is just a handful of people, maybe in the high single digit thousands, who all travel round to these protests and all do exactly the same thing. Like you get people who the arrests in Portland are really telling because it's people from DC, it's people from California, it's people from Washington, and they all go back and forth. Whenever there's a big quote unquote action in one area, they all congregate there, and it gives people a bigger idea. A kind of an inflated number of how many people that they are. It is a really small number of professional activists that are doing all of this.
And the thing is, all of them seem to spend a lot of time couch surfing. I mean, like the kind of the lefty activist people who I knew would live at most. A lot of they would either squat or they would live in a van. Like they wouldn't have a proper job, or if they did if they had any kind of actual what one could consider income, it would be kind of like a off the books job in commas, maybe they'll be like, oh, I'm so and so's assistant, and so they kind of bankroll me, but then they wouldn't, but then they would just kind of squander all that money on drugs anyway.
Half of them are petty criminals and drug dealers anyway. That's kind of the open secret about it.
And Phil was no exception to that. So, after he became a revolutionary communist, what he spent all his time doing? Well, couch surfing, basically being homeless for a long time, crashing lots of various communist and LGBTQIA plus events. And then interestingly, something else which another thing which I kind of found out, or kind of came to realization on. So, you remember, Scrump, your Christian law.
I do know my Christian law. I am a Christorian.
Yes. So, this Phil guy is basically who Jack Thaddeus was accused of being.
Oh, right.
So, yeah.
That is an obscure piece of law. No one else will fucking get that.
I know. But, this is how far back this guy goes. So, even back, I mean, and again, this is to put it all in context. So, for anyone who jumps into this stream and thinks, I'm being really transphobic, this must be someone who has, just started their transition. I need to stop being so mean to them. Again, 10 years after coming out as a trans woman, that's what they look like.
It used to be back in the late 90s and 2000s. You used to get to a point of being fat and pathetic that you'd basically have to turn into a goth. There's that point where you get to that status where you're the only option for me now is to turn into a goth. And I think the 2020 equivalent of that is turning into fucking AntiFur quote unquote trans person.
Yeah, I do think that the trans one can be very easy label to pick up, especially if you're friends with lots of weirdos. Whenever you see kind of gatherings of queer people. Whenever you look at them, you always kind of realize that they look fairly unwashed. They all kind of I would put up a picture of what I mean, but I don't want to be accused of online bullying. But you must get the picture in your head. These are they all wear the same kind of crappy, trying to go for a thrift store look, but not pulling it off. It will usually be
over how bad that balaclava. They're on the quickie though. I can't believe that. The lore goes so deep here.
Yes, I know, and this isn't exactly a nice kind of harmless-ish lolcow. So he has been accused of assaulting his own mother and keeps on changing the reason as to why he assaulted his mother. I'm
shocked. You're saying this person has a record?
Yeah. Well,
I'm shocked. This is my shock. The thing is, they all have a record a mile fucking long.
Yeah.
Was it you say, Louis? Criminal lives don't matter.
Yeah, that is what I say, and I'm not surprised to hear that he likely has some kind of criminal record because.
And guess what else? Guess what else he's been accused of? Guess what else he's been accused of? A hardcore leftist degenerate. What else has he done? Come on.
I don't want to say.
Well, $1,000 or whatever. You know it.
Not saying it. I think I do, but I'm not saying
it. So, yeah, he has been accused of interest in people of the younger age.
Oh, how surprising!
Gee,
God, it's like a pipeline. It's like a bingo card. It's like, okay. When's this lefty going to turn out to be a pedo?
Oh, look, like it's incredible just how this person ultimately represents every kind of argument one could think of about your common AntiFur / trans activist. Like, this person fits every single key of it. So this is someone who does not look like what they want you to refer to them as. This is someone who doesn't work and hasn't worked for 10 years. Someone who doesn't wash and apparently has had like
and hasn't washed for 10 years.
Yeah. I found out some information on the Kiwi farms about how he apparently doesn't he apparently once got like a foot infection because he never washes his feet. That's the kind of
too much detail now.
I know.
Let's move on.
I won't go into any more of that, but that's to give you an idea. Once again, stereotype. Like, this is it is kind of like a living Stone Toss cartoon, but I mean, it's important to highlight because like one thing that I have got increasingly sick of, particularly from trans activists, is when they try and say people like this don't exist. Like, whenever they try and do the arguments of when you're talking about, like trans women having access to bathrooms, and they're always point to, the trans women who look like supermodels, like that kind of thing, saying, oh, look, they're wanting to question these people, when actually, no, nobody's really bothered about them. What they're bothered about is people like this. Someone with evil trans and tattooed underneath their jowls. Like, that, this is someone who has a fairly worrying track record. And they just never acknowledge it. They never acknowledge that this here is a problem, and they will always try and pass off. Oh, maybe that's just one person, but no, this is increasing numbers of people, and you're happy with being associated with them.
I know exactly what you mean by when you said that people deny these people exist. That to me is one of the commonalities of like the neoliberal left is. They will laugh in your face about the progressives and like the far left. They'll laugh at you to say that they don't exist, that they're meaningless. Yeah. And a good example of this is an episode of oh Jesus, what is this? The guy from HBO. I just forgot his name.
What, John Oliver?
No. The guy who runs a show. He's an atheist comedian.
That could be literally any. I know. Narrowing it down. Smug atheist.
I forget his fucking name. It's been so long.
Throw a fucking dart.
He's got slick back white hair.
Oh, Bill Maher. Bill
Maher. Thank you.
Bill Maher. Yeah.
So Bill Maher had Dennis Prager on his show, and Dennis Prager is like an arch conservative. Dennis Prager was on a show and said to him, basically, the left is attacking womanhood in these different ways. And everyone on the panel, including Bill and his entire audience, laughed in Dennis Prager's face. And it's like everything he just said is true. You can argue the opposite side and say why he's wrong, or it doesn't matter, or this is acceptable. But instead, they just simply denied him in a humiliating fashion. But he just stood there and took it. And he's like, no, I'm right about this. And you're just denying that this exists. And it's because every fucking person in that room is just a neoliberal jerk-off.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the mostly peaceful protest. Or what was it?
Fiery but peaceful protests.
Yes, fiery but peaceful protest. There's also the protest in Germany, which was peacefully dispersed using water cannon. They literally said that.
Yeah.
20, I mean, it's like 25 police officers injured in mostly peaceful protests back in June.
Well, even on that point, the thing is with this person, like with you two, and I'm not trying to accuse you of anything because maybe you feel similarly to myself, but everyone looks at this kind of person and they view this person as what would be called a lol cow. That is what people would dub this person.
Yeah.
I view this person in the same way that the kid on Old Yeller. That's how I view this person. I view this person as pathetic but dangerous.
Yeah.
And
no. This goes beyond localdom. Like generally, locals are, I wouldn't say harmless, but they are not capable of active threat. No, this is someone who kind of goes. They have that aspect of them as well. But no, I would agree with you as well. They are someone who is actively dangerous, and that's what makes it so much worse.
The example that I would give you of what I mean by this is the Baton Rouge shooter. He was a black guy named Gavin Long, and he was effectively radicalized by the Young Turks and Jimmy Dore, and then went to Baton Rouge, Louisiana to protest, police, whatever, and shot and killed like 3 to 5 officers. And the guy was just a total dweeb, pathetic, all talk, nonsense. I think he was in the military for some duration, but he was just kind of a joke. He himself was just like a pseudo-intellectual dweeb. And it's just a matter of like, at some point with these people, especially when in terms of their rhetoric, they offer a lot of violent rhetoric. And I don't imagine this person is any different.
Well, there's a picture of them with the phrase "brick or treat."
Yeah, I see that. The worry is though that at any point these people can basically cross the threshold of going from irrational to violently irrational.
Yes.
And so basically my position is that despite these people being locals, people can on the internet laugh, but I think that all these people should be on a watch list. And my position is that for these protests, so-called protests and riots and that, I'd basically be charging these people under a variation of sedition. Like you'd have to pass an executive order around sedition, and I'd have all these people locked up in federal prison for 40 years and just clear the streets. And I would say that pretty much after that, you have basically a checklist of about 12 things you'd have to do to prevent this in the future. Because every day, it's basically the people that talk about canceling debt. Cancel debt. Okay, let's say we just do it. Is that just the end of debt or lending, or is there going to be more debt?
The same people will be in serious debt a year later.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise you guys to know that this person is also in serious debt, and apparently that is the most likely reason why he assaulted his mum.
Yeah, probably for money to steal shit and sell. And with these people, the problem is that eventually these people flame out. It's pretty rare that I see that these people linger on indefinitely, especially people that are this well into all this nonsense. A lot of these people flame out, but the thing is that some people overdose, some people get arrested and go to prison, some people, do the obvious thing that I'm not going to say because of things being how they are. But
and hero, yes,
yeah. But the thing is that it's just a matter of, I think you're right. I think it was Rose who said this about these people numbering in the thousands. I think that you are right about that.
Yeah,
I said that. But
okay, then Scrump, you're right.
Well,
I'm always right.
share that sentiment.
I'm
also right.
I don't think that these people are very big in number, but what I do think is that their terrorism, which is what it is very, very effective, and that the neoliberals are running for cover, and they will do what these people want to avoid being terrorized. And that's why we, because we're not pussies, need to roll in and roll out and stop standing by and start pursuing political power so that we can crush these people and free the neolibs. We can liberate the neolibs from these people, because I do think that eventually these people are going to get everything that they want.
Yes. No, I completely agree. And I think I am getting more on the position that you can't just sit by and just let them do nothing. I mean, when the left talks about how, fascism is taking over, they're not just like, as much as they're wrong, they still try and take whatever action they can to try and stop it from happening. And it seems like we hold a lot of weight in having the moral of saying, well, no, they're free kind of do whatever. And these people actively do want to take away your rights. They do want to promote rhetoric that could that causes injury, and in some cases, this year has caused direct deaths.
Yeah,
and that they are not there to play nice alongside us. They are very open about it. I mean, when the left talks about the far right, they mention phrases like dog whistle all the time, which is interesting because it seems to be only the left who ever hear these dog whistles. I mean, people on the right generally don't. But when it comes to the far left, they don't really talk much in coded language.
No,
they're very open about what it is that they want, and they don't really receive much in the way of retribution from the left. I mean, the left is more likely to throw somebody under the trucks because they don't support the use of neopronouns than they would for someone who, say, wants to round people up into camps. I mean, we'll be moving on to that topic in a bit, so I won't kind of touch on it much more than that. But when you kind of look at the various outrages over the last year, particularly concerning people from the left, most of it seems to revolve around them not towing the line with everything. Like over the last week, one of the big controversies over Twitter was John Cleese not agreeing with all this kind of trans bullshit and basically saying, oh no, I support J.K. Rowling. And John Cleese is clearly quite left-leaning.
Yeah.
But the leftists went to town on him. He said the amount of hit pieces written on him. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's the same story repeating itself.
Yeah.
Celebrity comes out and says something.
Wow, I can't believe the left. Wow, I can't believe the left would be so violent. I say as they spread my grades across the page. It's that same old thing. Everyone is kind of they're at the stage. A lot of people were like 3 to 4 years ago.
Oh yeah,
maybe even before that. Maybe even like 20. I think a lot of people are still stuck in like 2015. But they're just like, if we just point out the left's hypocrisy, it'll go away. It's like, no, you need to like. They're talking about we'll come to it later, but literally they're talking about putting you in a camp.
Yes,
like we are here now. We are here. There are people being murdered in the streets. There are elections being stolen. Like you either do something, or you end up they're going to kill you, or they're going to put you in a camp, and they're the ones who are saying that.
Yeah, and it's also important to remember when we're talking because I used to believe in pointing out the left's hypocrisy to them, but I have moved away from that now, and the reason for it is I think they're very perfectly aware of their hypocrisy.
Yeah,
they play by very different rules.
They just don't care.
I mean, this is
amoral.
Yeah, like when I've had arguments with some of like the TRAs on Twitter. And, I'll be pointing out something which is really bad. This was on my early days of Twitter, and I know that I shouldn't have really engaged with this, but I did, and it was a learning experience for me. I would point out something from the it might be a prominent trans person who says something absolutely insane, like really nasty smears about people. Point it out, I'd be like, this is horrible. And I would have a trans person in response to be like, oh, well, what about this? What about this? Will you condemn this? Will you condemn that? And, one time I thought like, okay, let's actually see what happened with this person. It turned out, what they're pointing out, this person said actually was fairly horrible. So it's like, I'll condemn that. Would you condemn what this person said? And they're just like, lol, no. So like they were ranting at me about principles, but then as soon as they were instantly very much aware that they're being hypocrites. They just don't care about it. And if anything, that was a real learning experience for me. It taught me that they know what they want to do is apply the principles, the right to apply their principles onto everyone, but the left can only, they deal with their own. It's like when when the kind of the police started rolling in against the rioters, and they were calling for libertarians to get on side.
And some did. I want to point out there were libertarians that showed up to these events, and I think that what's his face, Rittenhouse was one of them.
Yes,
so
I believe he was.
Unfortunately, I have to say that I said that this year basically proved libertarians right about economics, but man, every single year is just the worst year for libertarians because their own philosophy is basically the worst aspect to them. The amount of ideological horseshit that they have swirling in their head weighs them down so badly that they find themselves on the same side as communists.
I mean, I have a lot of kind of agreement with various libertarian principles, but I can never call myself a libertarian because I simply think it's too utopian.
There's a reason that they call them the lolberts.
Yeah, it's too utopian for it to ever be a functioning ideology.
They're one of these people that has the it's stuck in my head, the idea of the perfect empathy society, the perfect moral and empathic, well, what they think of as moral and empathic society. There's a huge group of people, I think, from socialists to communists to libertarians to even people who are more like social democrats or just even people who are neoliberal or neoconservative. Even they have this very neat idea in their head of the perfect niceness to everything. They think everything's going to be nice. Yes. They think something's not nice. They go, ooh, that's not nice. I don't want to be part of that. Doesn't seem that's not nice. That's not a nice little bake sale. Ooh, I don't want to be part of that. Yeah. And like I said, those are the people who are not willing. That's really what's paralyzed debate in society, I think, is that nobody's willing to have, I guess, unpleasant discussions or say unpleasant truths.
Yes.
And they are even when it's demonstrated to them in plain terms that their morality is wrong and what they're doing is actually amoral by inaction and not wanting to appear, aggressive or quote unquote cringe, even as some of them put it.
Yeah.
That their inaction is in of itself immoral, and I don't know. It's a wide point to get across, and I'll probably talk about it later with the whole, putting us in camps things, because it has been half an hour and we haven't seen the Seals of News yet, Rose.
Well, the Seals of News, the Seals of News are on a road trip. I'll show you some footage of the road trip.
They've disappeared, have they? They've gone away.
Here is the Seal of News.
Oh no, they're still with graffiti in the car.
You can see the Seals of News are fairly late because the mandrill.
They're lost.
The mandrill has driven him the wrong way.
Is he gonna hold the seal over the coast like on Pride Rock? Circle of fish and all that.
But I think this would be a kind of good jumping off point to talk about the other topic, which really does kind of lead into all this. But before we do so, I just want to read out a couple of super chats. So Pixel with the £2 returned to Monkey.
Good news.
I have. And Jedi Knight Anna Quinn Cringewalker with the $2. Hello, fellow Kumo regime citizen. Yes.
Fair enough.
So because we were kind of talking about one lolcow, a good kind of link to the other one is it's another lolcow. And Scrub, do you want to do a bit of an introduction to this one? Scrump? Are you there?
He's gone. He couldn't take it. He's like, I'm out of here. He just bailed out. And this is the worst possible time because this is his favorite lolcow. This is apparently everyone's favorite lolcow.
I'm sorry. I was having a little bit of a sneezing fit there. Good Lord.
Oh God.
I could hear you. I was just going. You don't want to hear me having a fucking sneezing attack.
COVID attack. You're done. You're gone.
It's allergies. I have allergies. Okay. I've been cleaning my house today and it's been dusty and oh dear.
No, the dust. There's too much of it.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you? Oh no, I know the dust. Oh, my allergy. I'm gonna have to get
my allergies.
My asthma. My asthma. I'm okay. I just had a brief sneeze and now I'm fine. But yes, it's we're on MovieBob watch again.
Diabito.
Yes.
Diabito. I'll never get over that name.
It's so good. Who came like a cutaway joke?
Was that Rags? Who came up with
that's from EFAP, yeah.
Okay.
They do MovieBob watch with Diabito.
Let me see if I can. Where did I put that? I've got the picture of the. Oh, there it is. Of his like light snack.
Oh, this.
Oh my God.
There's so many of them. Have you got Mountain Dew chicken?
Yeah, let me just bring up Mountain Dew.
No, that was so gross.
I want to zoom in on that. I want to read that. Enhance that one, Jamie.
Let me just. Oh God, this is disgusting. This is like I'm very tempted to kind of try and do a proper actual version of this. Which is
have you not seen the one where he's cooking it with like the burnt lemons on it?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that one's even worse. That one's even worse.
Like, let me just bring up
because the tweet it's in as well. The context of what he says. Sorry, there needs to be some kind of like MovieBob wiki, like the.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's got to be something on him.
There's not. I will make one. The thing is, I had a video that I made like 3 years ago about MovieBob's fucking eugenics tweets, and he ended up reporting it for bullying. Like it got taken down.
I remember that.
I nearly got a strike. Like, it disappeared from the internet. Fucking Dev nearly got a strike for it. It disappeared from one of Sargon's channels.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the last one, the original one, finally disappeared from mine a couple of weeks ago.
I remember so far back when I used to listen to this guy's show on the Escapist.
He used to be okay. He used to be listenable. Yeah. What was it called again?
I don't remember what the show was.
No, I can't quite. Why did he lose his job with Escapist?
By being shit.
By being MovieBob. The thing is, they fired him twice.
Yeah.
This is the second time.
Yep. That's right.
It's like Japan. He got told twice.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah, this guy used to be
too
edgy.
soon?
This guy used to be edgy. It's amazing.
But there's this roast whole chicken marinated for 3 days in Mountain Dew.
3 days.
What does that even mean? Like marinating in Mountain Dew for 3 days?
Must have got like a bowl, put the chicken in, pour a load of Mountain Dew
over it,
left it for 3 days.
What would be the difference between 1 hour and 3 days? What is really the difference?
It's got to get that real Mountain Dewiness to it, you know. You've got to really feel the corn syrup in your bones.
Like chicken doesn't even really need to be left that long to marinate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I suck at cooking completely, and I know that.
That is a burnt chicken. Why are there lemons all up? That makes me sad. So does his terrible little basement apartment electric hob.
Yeah.
Oh God, that is depressing.
Yes, he is.
The thing is, he's like Anthony Birch, you know? It makes you feel better because you aren't him.
Anthony Birch is more successful than this guy. Anthony Birch was actually smart enough to realize that all he needs to do is get connections in the industry, and he could just last forever off of nepotism. Him and his dirtbag sister.
He didn't even have a wife to steal his Wii U.
No.
So let's go back to the what the Bobbit has said.
We did cover the Lindsay Ellis incident on here, didn't we?
We did.
Okay.
So MovieBob is starting to become a bit of a recurring character on Seal of Approval.
The thing is, he's got like a cinematic universe. I've talked about him on dev shows. I've talked about him on Sargon shows. He's a perpetual presence on EFAP. You are right with the Diabeto thing. But yeah, let's get into what he actually did.
Yes. So before, when we were talking about the hog looking motherfucker, we mentioned about how the left really does hate us, and it doesn't. They don't mince their words about it, and like Scrump has talked about a lot in the past. MovieBob is of no exception to this. Like, he is quite openly called for. Look, basically genocide.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, we got to face facts that 4 years of MAGA brain rot has fundamentally altered a segment of our population into something else. Psychologically, we're like two divergent strains of humanity now, and I'm not sure they're done regressing. So,
Eugenics Bob is back.
He's not exactly wrong. He's not exactly wrong, but he's just being completely hyperbolic.
He's talking about the wrong people.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is that ultimately, I don't think that you could say that. I mean, the far left, Antifa types, are degenerates. So you could say that they are degenerating, especially if you do those comparisons of the girl fresh out of high school versus her now sort of compilations. Those you could say they're degenerating, but in the case of like the sides, it's basically people like Bob in this side, like they are useful tools for the internationalist elite that basically want to turn us all into serfs, and they will be the feudal lords. I guess that these people like Bob just think that they're going to be part of the aristocracy, and they're insane.
Yes. Well, it's what communists always do. Whenever you talk to a socialist or a communist, they're never the people who are working in the factories or in the fields.
Right.
They are always the ones who are making the commands. They're the ones telling everyone what to do, because they have very little empathy with your average worker, because they live in very different worlds. I mean, there's no wonder that so many of these types are from the middle class, and they'll try and push back their middle class credentials as much as possible to make them seem more relatable, but they come from a very elitist world.
Yeah.
Here's some like Scrum's just sent me over some classic MovieBob quotes.
These are the ones from the video that he got taken down, but you can't stop the signal, Bob. You can't stop this. I still have the archives. I still have the receipts, and you will forever be owned. You can't unown yourself. You will forever be the corn cob. So
MovieBob's lost tweets. Morality is what turned eugenics destructive. Too much mythology.
Well, that's just a nonsensical statement. So I don't know really what he's actually trying to say with that, because it's literally a nonsense statement that doesn't even make sense. Even if he wanted to be like puff himself up, like, yeah, I'm a Nazi now. It's like, yeah, even under that, like that, what you just said doesn't make any sense. But okay.
There are days when my fondest wish is that eugenics hadn't been tainted as a science by racists and Nazis. You can call them weakness. This is a real person. There are times when I really hate that Jim Crow era racists pretty much ruined the idea of intelligence tests for votes.
I mean,
this is the man who blames Republicans for the fact that he is not on a spaceship.
See, the thing with this is that if he wasn't so irrational, this would actually be fairly smart, because you bring back intelligence tests, and then everyone on our side, or more close to our side, would be like, oh, lol, red pills, blah, blah, blah. Like, they would say things to be edgy. But here's the brilliance to it. Who designs the tests? They would. So they would be the only ones that would know how to pass the test to vote.
Yeah.
It'd be all nonsensical, fucking leftist logic. Yeah. Like, is this a woman? It's a picture of a fucking man and shit. Yeah.
they would design tests where they would be the only ones that would know how to pass them, and they would coach each other on how to pass them. So you got to understand that, as irrational as he is, like, there is like a lizard brain logic to a lot of this, where it's basically they've been inculcated with the concept of how do we achieve power? Power exists. How do we achieve power? And that's all they think about. They're consumed by that. And so everything is basically like it's like a gravitational pull. And in the center is power. And everything is just going around it constantly. And that's what pretty much, if you think in those terms and you look at a lot of what they say, it looks less stupid. Because you can see with what they're actually trying to get to with it. Like what they're actually saying with it.
So let me bring up what else Bob has, like, because Bob went on a bit of a really kind of strange tangent.
With
someone.
You're kidding.
The thing is, it's another chapter of, okay, I have an explanation for MovieBob. MovieBob isn't at least an honest leftist. He's saying what all the leftists are thinking, and the other leftists hate him for it because he's saying the quiet part loud. He's saying exactly what they're thinking. But it's too soon now. They're supposed to already have them in the camps by the time they're saying this. Yeah, but he's saying it now.
Yeah, it's going back to what I said earlier. You get more outrage from the left if you are, against neo-pronouns than you are if you are pro-concentration camps for right-wingers. That's the bizarre level of morality that we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, Scrum. But it does seem to be more of an outrage of like, you're not supposed to say these things in public, not yet. No, like wait until we've got them on the trains first. Because like, even from general like casual conversation with left-wing people, like they genuinely see like the kind of left-right political spectrum as a morality scale, with left being good and right being evil. Like, all of them are convinced of it. Even people who I know who have left the left, or like, you know, walked away or whatever. Like, even like, you know, I've got good friends of mine. Like, she was a few years ago, she was like a real hardcore avid Ramona. And like now she's just kind of realized that Orange Man not so bad. And yeah, she basically told me about how she genuinely believed that the people on the right were evil. I mean, when you like look at the way in which recently in the UK, when we had there was a vote in Parliament on children being given free school dinners whilst they're not in school. And the way that the left framed that was, well, the good side is the one that wants children not to go hungry, and the right wing are evil because they want children to starve. Like they think that the right's argument is that we want children to go hungry, when that's not at all. It's complete misrepresentation of what the position is. But they genuinely believe that because they have no actual comeback to any kind of arguments on why should this really be the state's responsibility, and do you want the same people who have fucked up so badly this year on what to do with COVID? Do you really want them in charge of feeding your children when it will likely take months to get the kind of civil service processes needed in order to implement such a policy, and that policy will naturally be underfunded and will constantly need more and more money, and nobody will ever be happy with it? Is that really what you want when we could do a better option ourselves? But they don't think of that. It's just, well, the right just wants children to starve. But it's simple for them. It's simple for them to set up straw man against what their opponents are. And so when you demonize and make it out that everyone on the right is like twirling their mustaches whilst, you know, throwing bricks at orphans, like it's easy to then kind of dehumanize them to the point of, oh, maybe we do have to forcibly get rid of them. Maybe we do have to, you know, re-educate them. It's easy. You can see where that train of thought comes from. I mean, hell, I went in like Parliament the other week when you had the Labour MP, I think it was Angela Rayner, who called Tory MP scum. Then the left completely, you know, the same people who flipped out about Boris Johnson using the word humbug in Parliament were now cheering on a Labour MP who called her opponent scum. Like, you know, like that is the way in which they see us. They see us as less than dirt. And that's like, you know, I have friends on the left, but I know that with a lot of them, if I'm very open with them about what my political views are, they simply will not listen. Yeah. Like they will all that will happen is we will just fall out, and that's it. And it isn't so much about like flaws in them as people, but it's more about conditioning on them.
Yes.
It's conditioning. Like it's always reinforced to them that their opponents are nothing but like knuckle dragging simpletons who want to harm the world. Like and so I can see why you have people like MovieBob, and then, you know, of course we had the like the Trump project. Let me just bring up the page. Where did it go?
I am enjoying his wounded response to being called out, though. Especially by when it's a smaller person than him, he thinks he can intimidate them. But when it's someone like even fractionally more relevant than him, he goes into like, how could you do this to me mode? Like, how could you harass me like this? Me, a check mark on Twitter. How could you wound me so? It's just very funny, really. It really shows that he's very kind of signed up to this mental pecking order of people online that the check marks seem to be, that they defer to the bigger check marks and shit on the smaller people.
Yeah, but it's like his kind of his fawning over Lindsay Ellis. Like it's like kind of like his entire response to her when, like he was calling her a colleague and like kind of trying to make it out that they have a relationship in place when they don't.
She was basically just like, "Don't associate with me, you filthy peasant. Get off me."
Yeah.
My relevance.
But yeah, let me kind of go over what MovieBob said, so people can see it. So because it might be small in the screenshot. So respectable lawyer. I've noticed a lot of MovieBob tweets sound like prelude to eugenic genocide. And Diabetes says, Here I was wondering where the dog pile of harassment I woke up to came from. Could not be more disappointed to see you as the source. Not because of the disagreement, but because you know full well what kind of forces you'd unleash and align with via that framing. It's been a strong year for disappointment and reevaluation in terms of being let down, and no one more so than myself.
Man, strong on the rhetoric.
Oh, he's disappointed. He had to.
I told you, he's wounded. He's emotional. Also, I sent you the Diabito image.
Oh God. I'll show after we've gone through this. I'll put it up. So I can't pretend that finding out you're kind of a scumbag like this rates as particularly meaningful, but lousy start to the day all the same. Most of what I've seen from you indicates you're not a bad person, and you're not stupid, even if you've done an exceedingly stupid and cruel thing here. You should improve yourself. Again, all this person said was, like, MovieBob's tweets sound like eugenic genocide.
I could just start a Twitter account that would literally just be called MovieBob Taking Elves and added lots of content. Because there's so many L's here from him. I literally search up Diabito and I get all of them. Oh, yeah, there it is.
That's Diabito.
He has power over all sugary snacks.
Oh God, let me. Sorry, this is.
Oh, that one's pretty classic.
I know that skull guy is a bit of a dick, but that's not.
The thing is that the rest of the leftists just shit on him because he's like the equivalent of like the conservatives' retarded cousin Bubba, you know. Now I'm gonna get my rifle and the goddamn FBI, and it's like, shut up, Bubba. He's Bubba Chipman, basically, if he was a conservative. That's what he'd be. Be like, come on, Bubba, stop Fed posting. Come on.
If he was right wing, dude, he would have been like, he'd be in prison. Let's just put it like that. Like he would have been disavowed day one, banned on every single platform, and then like 6 months later you hear about a raid at his house and he's in prison afterwards.
Yeah. Oh dear. That's the difference though. People have just learned to accept how asymmetric the online environment is.
Yeah.
With the social media companies and the way that I guess just governments lean on people now.
I think I might always bring up because it's kind of connected to a bit of like Bob's rhetoric, the Trump Accountability Project, which I think we might have talked about a couple of weeks ago, but I think it's worth
checking it twice.
I think it's worth highlighting because the rhetoric just actually hasn't gone away.
Yeah,
it's
worse.
Yeah.
If anything, it's got worse.
Well, yeah. Let me bring up the Blaze article that you sent me because this is quite a spice.
The thing is, I couldn't find them all. There's been about 10 different check marks which have basically said the same thing. Yeah, I didn't send you it. There was that guy who was called, I think he was called like David Reich or something, who called for Truth and Reconciliation hearings.
Yes. I have heard about the Truth and Reconciliation.
That's come up multiple times. Multiple people have mentioned that specifically.
I think Sam Harris might have mentioned Truth and Reconciliation at one point.
Possibly.
I know quite a few people have banded around that term. I do know that a Democrat, like an actual Democrat Party member, has used that for the exact phrase "truth and reconciliation." But effectively, what they're wanting to do is bring in, like, I don't know whether it's like Nuremberg trials or struggle sessions mean,
it's going to be struggle sessions. That's what it's going to be.
Like, it's again, this kind of thing doesn't surprise me that this is a narrative that's being pushed. Like, of course, because to them, Orange Man is the ultimate bad. Like, they see it. They see like kind of Biden like being like kind of presumed nominee as being their 1945. Like, this is their victory over fascism by electing a geriatric old man and a cop. Like, which is kind of not quite the progressive victory that 2020 demands, but it's still a thing. But yeah, this is something that so many of them have called for, like so many kind of big name check marks. So there's another link that Scrump has just sent me. Let me just quickly bring that up. Canceling Trump alumni. Yeah, like, again,
what were you saying, Louis? Sorry.
No, I wasn't trying to interrupt here, but it's just like a spiral of escalation. Yeah. That's what they've been doing for years, and I think that that's what a lot of this is. A lot of this rhetoric and a lot of this stuff about violent iterations or lining this up with basically the Nuremberg trials or the Truth and Reconciliation Council, which is basically whatever from South Africa or whatever, where it's just going to be brutalizing white people because the blacks are now in charge. Like, that's going to be the auspices by which that they go after these people. A lot of this, I think, is just the inability for them to turn around. Like, they've been escalating and escalating and escalating, and it's like they can only go in this direction. And I think that basically what the right is going to have to do is basically take control of everything, or that they are basically going to have to find a means by which to create mutually assured destruction. That if you actually do start trying to implement these legitimately dangerous things, that you are basically going to pay a higher price. And I mean that because I think that we are getting close to being in dangerous territory, where now with this current election, even today, like, things keep bouncing back and forth between like good news and bad news. But I think that my hope is that in the end, if Trump is still president, that we get a different form of Trump and that he hasn't forgotten what's been said. Because if Trump wins re-election, the Republicans are going to take the House back in 2022. I guarantee it now. And
okay, not to get too much on the election thing, but if Trump wins re-election, I think it will involve nullifying a lot of the votes, and they will take the House straight away. But that's just
that's two things. That's actually two things, and it's like what's happening in Georgia, where the Republicans were ready to accept him losing in Georgia. They were ready to say, "Oh, nope, right off Georgia for it's for Biden." And then the Senate races went to a runoff, and right now, and I said this yesterday, they're panicking, basically doing everything that they can to get the vote back up for the runoffs in Georgia, because it's like, oh shit, Mitch McConnell's going to lose his majority in the Senate, who's done fuck off, for 4 years. Oh God. So you can tell that they weren't planning for that. They weren't planning to actually lose those races. And so the thing is that if Trump wins, I think that he has halted a lot of this. And I think that I'll be, sighing with a breath of relief, just by the fact that a lot of this has been avoided, because I think that a lot of these people who are saying this on Twitter, a lot of this like quasi-genocidal language, I would say that a decent portion of them only mean it so far for rhetorical purposes. But the thing is that, like, again, it's a continuous escalation, and that we have elected people who are more than willing to implement this shit.
This guy was in government, though. He's a former Labor secretary.
Yeah, he is basically... I've been following Robert Reich for a very long time. I've known who Robert Reich is for a very long time. And he is a closeted socialist radical. And he's been around for a very long time. And he is basically how I would describe him is as, I'm not that economically sound in terms of what I know, but he is the anti-libertarian advocate. So if you think about economics in that sense, he is the anti-libertarian. So everything that a libertarian would want to do, he wants to do the exact opposite. And he has a lot of sway, despite being some, douchebag from the Clinton administration forever ago. He has a decent amount of sway. And it's because he's basically the economic czar for this element of the left.
So a lot of people are like, well, who the hell is he? But when someone like Robert Reich is calling for truth and reconciliation, basically, public trials of anyone who, quote unquote, collaborated with Trump, you have to take that seriously. You really, really do.
Yeah. And again, he's not a lone voice in this. Like, I mean, you can go back to the argument the leftists will do is like, well, it's convenient to brush aside people who are speaking openly about what these radicals really want to do. But these ideas, and people don't make comments like this out of nowhere. Like, these aren't. This is not just one individual spreading something. Like, there are. I mean, hell, look at the amount of people who liked that.
Yeah,
over 49,000 people agreed with that. That's not a small number. And like, how many people, push to shove as they started implementing it, bearing in mind how much Trump derangement syndrome has really been pushed on America since Trump won back in 2016. Like, do you really think that this would go, like, that leftists would openly challenge such a thing being put in place? Of course they wouldn't.
No,
of course they would. Like, not a chance. They would support such a thing happening because the atmosphere has been put in place for them to do it.
Yeah, and it's scary to think about, but this kind of thing is not out of the realm of possibility, because even here and now, there are a bunch of like random neo-lib assholes that are Democrats in the House and the Senate that are proposing like unbelievably radical things. And it's no longer even in the realm of like the Green New Deal. We're basically going to have a government take over the economy. It's like bills that are coming out that are basically straight out of South Africa. Like, we're just going to start taking shit from whites. And it's like, oh my God, like, what has happened? So that's what I mean about the neoliberals is that, man, they are going along with the progressives just entirely, like hand in hand. And it's like, they are entering the realm of like legitimate, like dangerous race politics. And that is why it's so disheartening to see like the right wing being like, oh, we just elected all these women and diversity is strength. The minority leader in the House keeps saying over and over and over again, diversity is our strength. And it's like, I really think that the right, even though they have an active like blackballing campaign against certain people from like the further ends of the right or the more race conscious elements of the right, they are laying the groundwork for white racial consciousness in America, and they don't even understand it. And it's like, you don't have any idea how dangerous this is. And
if only you knew how bad things really are.
And the thing is that on the opposite side is that the Democrats are actively like, they're taking off the mask and they're basically going to like the black grifters and saying, we're just doing straight up race politics now. And we're the side of the blacks. And it's like, I said this to people on Twitter and I got a little bit of pushback on this, is that if the right engages in race politics, the left is going to beat us because they do it better than us. And they'll always be willing to offer more because it's more of our shit that they'll be taking.
Yeah, you're right. They need to stop playing the left's game. They think if they just sprinkle a bit of leftism on themselves, they'll get popular. Not realizing that the polls and, as we've seen, even the voting is fiction. They are dealing with people who are immoral, who have no intellectual honesty, who are not interested in having a debate, an argument, or participating in a process.
The answer is complicated to how you fight against that, but like I said, you have to have a direct escalation on your side so that you always give the neoliberals doubt that if they keep going down this road of what they've been proposing and what they've been doing and the politics that they are engaging in, that on the right, there is the risk that they will face something to where, let's say you have a blowout victory, and this is possible in 2022 or 2024 for the, and I think that this will follow suit in other nations, that this will basically be a warning shot that if you have a Republican victory in a certain regard, I mean, if you have Trump in just full, dongzo mode of like, I'm coming back with a vengeance, that you can scare them into backing down by basically going after and proposing basically a federal ban on public housing or the end of SNAP, which is food stamps, or any of these things that basically are the vote buying campaigns for the Democrats, that they threaten these things and they say, if you want us to back down, you have to drop these racial politics. And the reason why I think a lot of neoliberals are going along is that they have, for about 3 or 4 elections, they've been losing all the minorities, not by large margins, but every single campaign, every single election cycle, they're losing more and more of their minority votes. And they realize that unless they engage in what they think is, unless they directly engage in race politics, where it is the most extreme version, they are going to lose this potential of having a permanent majority in the House, in the Senate, and in the White House all across the country indefinitely. And with Trump right now, the reason why I'm not surprised I'm surprised that the rhetoric is not even more extreme, because Trump has severely cut down on immigration because of COVID. He has severely limited legal immigration, more so than any president in my lifetime by far. And if he wins re-election, there's a strong chance that he's going to keep that going just out of spite. And any deviation from the millions and millions, that's why you see Biden saying publicly that he's going to give amnesty. It's just a matter of numbers. He's already come out and said that he's going to do amnesty.
They need the votes. They mathematically can't win without it. That was their plan. And
so the thing is that they wouldn't be saying that if they believed this electoral result. They wouldn't be saying this if they believed that these 80 million votes that fucking Biden allegedly got, that they were legit. They wouldn't be saying these things if they believed it, but they don't. And so that should make you question why they are continuing to say, like, right out of the gate, days after the election, they're saying, we're going to do an amnesty deal. Why?
Well, my opinion on all of this is that it's essentially already happened. There essentially already was a massive Republican win. It was just, let's say there were some technical hitches, but again, we don't want to talk so much about the election. We're going to get away from that now. But
no, but
I think it's going to shake out.
I think that this ties into exactly what has been going on, what is continuing to go on, because the desperation by which they want to win, I think, gives you an idea that it isn't just like the raw lust for power. It is the fact that in 2016, there was an interruption to the game plan. And that for 4 years, there has been this interruption to the game plan. And even now, Republicans are like, ooh, it's getting kind of long that there's been an interruption to the game plan. And we want to get back to it because this is how we make money. We lose gracefully and we make a lot of money. And the left just does what it does. The internationalist elite do what they do. And I think that's why they're getting so schizoid and fucking weird about all of this and so violent and so agitated, even though they won allegedly, but they're still engaging in outright violent rhetoric. It's because they are desperate for this to continue.
So yeah, and I do see where you're coming from with that, and it's very hard to not buy into the idea that like Trump, the fact that like 2016 was something that was never supposed to happen. Brexit was never supposed to happen. Trump being elected in the first place, these things were not supposed to happen. And it could be quite hard to kind of like make sure you don't fall into a spiral of thinking, well, actually, maybe there is, maybe there is something like almost shadowy going on. Because I I do believe that when the left talks about the divisions over the last couple of years, this is entirely of their own making. They didn't accept their losses in 2016, and since then, they had Russia and the whole Russia scandal, impeachments. They have Kavanaugh, all of that in America, and then in the UK, they had constant legal attempts. They had pushes for people's votes. They had, even had like Theresa May as basically like a proxy Remainer as the prime minister. They had all of these things to basically try and sabotage the results as much as possible. The kind of but with the UK, it's now kind of gone weird with Boris Johnson basically being the biggest shill, the biggest kind of traitor.
Before we move on, I have a bit of a counterpoint and an uncharacteristic for me recently, a bit of a black pill, in that the blowout you're talking about, Louis, already happened. And it already happened here in the UK. We had a ridiculous historic election on a mandate that, according to the media, was the most far-right mandate in UK history. The Brexit election, and the left got destroyed. They got scattered to the four winds, and the earth was salted. It was a humiliating victory for not only the Labour but the Liberal Democrats. Both parties of the left were smashed into pieces in that election, and nothing changed. In fact, things got worse. We got a new immigration policy that increasing immigration to historic levels. We got one of the worst COVID policies in the world outside of Australia. We are lockstep still with a lot of European agenda, and immigration has continued to rise whilst we've been locked down. And the problem is that you not only have to get rid of the left, but you have to also get rid of the establishment right. Yeah, it is a battle in I think that's why Trump is so different, and that's why they hate him so much. Because as I was warning people for a long time, Boris is not Trump. He's a career politician. He's a pro-amnesty politician. He was mayor of London. He's not a savior, and he is still part of the machine. And the real black pill here could be that Trump could win. Trump could become president. They could overturn the Senate. They could overturn the House. They could throw out all the votes, get a supermajority. And what happens is the rhinos go, right, it's our time to shine. And they all gum up the machinery and tell Trump to fuck off and do their own Republican Party agenda.
It's not so much a black pill, because I don't even disagree with you. It's not a matter of a black pill. In terms of the UK politics, I would say you had a better example there than you did in the United States in terms of having the power to just do what the fuck you want. But electing the most limp-wristed politician you could to the office to lead it, and you need someone that is not necessarily like a messianic figure like Obama, because Obama in many ways was a bad president, not just for the fact of like what he did do, but all the stuff that the left wing and the Democrats wanted him to do that he just resisted completely. He was
Bush part 2 and 3, yeah. Sorry, Bush part 3 and 4.
Well, even Bush pursued certain things. Like he actively tried to privatize Social Security, and it completely blew up in his face, and he looked like an asshole. But that was him actually trying to do something. But in the case of Obama, there was things that the Democrats wanted to do that he just laid down on because he's like, I don't want to. And that was pretty much the gist of it. And with Boris Johnson, I would say that there probably is some of that as well in the Conservative Party, that even though you have all of the just where you said Rose with conspiracy, there's always a conspiracy, but the conspiracy is just you win, you get what you want, and we lose gracefully, but we get paid. That is the scam. That is the conspiracy. It's not shadowy. It's just we're all part of the same uniparty. We're all internationalists, and we're just all looking to get paid or whatever. We're pursuing some greater ideal that we half believe in, but we're just getting rich on. But in the context of the United States, there is, in the United States, a distinct difference between the UK. In the UK, your politics are a bit strange, that it seems like, 80% of the country are socialists, and it's a difference between a national socialist or an international socialist, and then like 20% are the capitalists, and they're all internationalists. I'm not trying to, say anything about the nation, but I'm just saying that's how I take it.
I think it's
our political class. Definitely. Yeah. But that's not the population here. You get a false idea of that.
Okay. But in the United States, on the right especially, right now, just beneath the surface, like, and you see this in terms of the support of Trump, it is unbelievable. Like, the degree that the country, the average Republican voter, it is overwhelming how many of them are simply Trump voters, that Trump has taken over the party. And I would say that the positive sign is that even if Trump loses, there are going to be some serious damage that comes from that if he does lose in the end, to the not just the party, but just what happens in the country. But if he wins, even if like he wins and he still doesn't do that much, what it does is that it carries on the current of nationalist politics in the United States. And like looking forward in the future, there is a very, very positive side to the right in the United States. And I think that that will trickle down to the rest of the world, including the UK, to where basically you could have somebody in the future who comes forward who isn't a quasi-nationalist like Trump, but is like a full-throated, red-pilled, does some stuff and, you know, does this and that for the neocons and the neolibs and for the establishment, but ultimately switches tracks. And I would say that as it is, if Trump wins re-election, I will be reassured greatly, because I think that it basically takes the reins from the internationalists back to the nationalists, and it'll keep it in a direction that I think will permeate strength, that so that maybe in the future, if the Tories in the UK keep control, they might look at the American model of the future of the American nationalists are taking power and they're taking seats and they have a strong message and they have insane grassroots support, that there might be some following along where the powers that be on the right in the UK, which do exist, they look at that and they say, hey, this is something we could latch on to.
Well, they kind of do that. So, I mean, when it comes to things like the Brexit referendum, all of that was basically because of UKIP, because they were threatened by Nigel Farage. So they do sometimes take on the ideas of like a more kind of grassroots party, one that is kind of very predominantly on the right, and they will try and implement a few of those things, but that seems to only be just to kind of siphon off, like make sure that their voters don't leave them for somebody else. They'll still cook on every other problem.
It's disheartening now, but I would say that if certain things play out in the way that they could very clearly, and today's news for Trump's efforts to retain his office are looking good. He's got 3 states right now headed in his direction. And
right. So I was going to ask, like, I know we said that we weren't going to talk about the election, but we kind of.
It plays into the futurist angle of what could be, what different paths we could be taking here.
I'm interested in what way do you, right now, as of right now, what way do you think it will go? Do you think Trump will get back in?
I think that as it stands, he has a very strong chance at Michigan and Wisconsin. Arizona and Georgia are the ones that are really murky, that I'm not sure. And Pennsylvania is like basically the World War III state, where it is just a downright battle to take that state right now. And today, Trump just scored a victory in the courts. So it's advancing in multiple directions. But the thing is that it's basically in Biden's favor, and Trump is fighting an uphill battle, but he's not losing at the moment.
Right.
And it's a question of, will he be able to win enough battles in enough states, where basically what he's going to have to do is some of these states, he's just going to basically have to have the Supreme Court just say, basically on high is basically the almighty kings, like the aristocracy, say, no, this state goes to Trump. And then the other states in Michigan and Wisconsin, especially, he's fighting to get these ballots that are just, and you can differ over the, like, what word you want to use, but when all you have is a name and a signature and no other proof, literally anyone could have created that ballot. And so by any metric, that is an erroneous ballot. That is a fraudulent ballot. And so it is required of you to toss it, because you can't prove, and not only who it is, but that they're a registered voter. And if they're not a registered voter, you get turned away. That is simply the law as it is. And what they're doing in these states are trying not to enforce the laws to get these ballots across.
There's multiple infractions of state election law that courts, even though they've quote unquote overturned some of Trump's lawsuits, have admitted outright that they are allowing from the bench allowing illegal ballots.
Yes.
In Pennsylvania, they outright admitted that these were essentially spoiled ballots, but discounting them will be disenfranchising people. So therefore, you can count illegal votes. That's a crime.
Yeah. Well, the question is as it relates to power, as it is in New York right now, in my area, not my county, but the county just below me, Erie County and all below it, they've gone down on a very stringent second lockdown. And there was a video that it went viral. These people at a gym that were yelling at the cops and a health inspector could get out, and that it made the rounds. It was very viral. But the whole thing is that everyone in the state is like, it's the law. It's the law. It's not a law. None of the lockdowns are any laws. None of this is any laws. It is literally Andrew Cuomo saying, this is what I decree, and that is what they are implementing. And everyone, including him, is claiming it's a law, and it's not. And so that's what's going on with the election, is that it really does show you, and this is why like the libertarians and all that, the communists, is why they're all wrong, is because ultimately power is simply what you declare it to be. It is not just a perception. It's what you can get away with using the systems. And that is what the left are doing right now. And they're doing in such a way that it's like, it is naked. It is something that like anyone can see. And if you look at the election result, where it's like Barack Obama looks like a fucking loser based on, compared to Joe Biden, the man that is the most popular president, apparently, in American history by such a magnitude that it's like defying districts where it's more votes than people that live there by like tens and tens of thousands.
Yeah, it's what I find really strange about that prospect of Biden being the most popular presidential electee of all time. Look at the kinds of crowds that he drew when you compare that to Trump. Nobody was turning up to Biden's events.
Well, to shill myself a little bit, I'm thinking at some point this week, if I don't know if I'll stream both Thursday and Friday. I might turn it into a video, I don't know. But there's a concept, and I think it's something Sargon talks about. It's about trusting your eyes. And the only people who are saying that Biden has won, and the only evidence we have, are the polls, the very, very, very dodgy election itself, and the media. Yes, everyone's perception is that Trump is more popular than Biden.
Yeah.
Like, if you ask people, are there more people who are enthusiastic in the country about Trump than Biden? Everyone would go, of course there are. That's self-evident. But it's this idea that the left has that, okay, I'm going to be a bit of a Star Trek nerd here. There's an episode of Next Generation where Picard is essentially captured and tortured by it's by the Cardassians. They capture and torture him, and his torture is just trying to get him to make one alteration to what he's saying, to basically force him to lie, to make to open the door for him to say other things, to control him more. And there's 5 lights above him, and he tries to get him to say that there are 4 lights. And that's really what this is. Everybody knows that Trump has a much bigger level of enthusiasm than Biden, and yet we're being told that Biden is the most popular president in human history by a ridiculous margin. And they're trying to get you to say there's, you see those 5 lights up there now, there's 4 of them. Tell me there's 4 of them. It's like that thing being a fucking woman. It's like, tell me that thing is a woman, or I will fucking kill you, basically, is what they're saying now. It's like, tell me that's a woman and say Biden's the most popular president in human history, or we'll put you in a camp.
The only thing that I could kind of see that would go into Biden's favor is that this was always the Trump election. This was Trump versus not Trump.
Yeah.
But even with that doesn't mean that Biden is a popular. Yeah.
Yes, somebody got it in chat.
The thing is that I was more than willing to accept. Like, I had bet that Trump was going to win, but I said that I was more than willing to accept a Biden victory. But the issue is that like immediately following the election, when all the nonsense was going on with the 4 a.m., like, oh, we're going to stop counting. It happened at like 11 or 12 at that night, election night, that they're going to stop counting and restart at like 11 o'clock the next day in all these different states, all mysteriously at once. At once, this was decided. They all stopped at once. Yes. And then when everyone went to bed and all this, they started counting again. And the thing is that even someone like Steven Crowder basically looked up the numbers for Michigan, like what the vote tabulation was in Michigan, and just presented it to his audience and said, these numbers are impossible. These numbers are not possible.
Well, watching someone like Steven Crowder go full beast mode on Fox News has been quite refreshing.
Yes. And the thing is that I would say that it basically shows you that even the people who are definitely, they've shied away from being more edgy, and a lot of their jokes are just immature nonsense, that they are willing to basically put their reputation on the line, because that's what a lot of people are doing and challenging the election. And it is because I think that all of us understand that view the election in a certain way, that if the Democrats get away with this, and it's not like, oh, Biden's scary, it's like you've basically taken this country and broken it in two. Like it is something like 82% of Republicans think that this election was fraudulent, that it was actively stolen. It's like you're going down a path to where it is possible. Like Tim Pool, the Beanie Man, like the Nostradamus that he is. He is basically going to be proven right inevitably if this election is allowed. And the thing is, like, again, Kamala Harris wins, Biden wins, whatever, I'm fine, but not in this way. Not in this way.
There's also numbers as well, and anecdotes I'm hearing that a lot of people, even in the Democratic Party, there was a survey, I know it was Rasmussen, but they said that a third of people who voted for Biden, or who were registered Democrats or leaned Democrat, said that they believe that this election may have been interfered with, that they believe that there may have been large amount of fraud that actually benefited Biden. So it's possibly even a third of the left who think, because they're like, we saw Tariq Nasheed going more popular than Obama. Come on.
But then they have no place to complain about Republicans contesting the results of the election. I mean, the Democrats openly contested what happened in 2016. You had Nancy Pelosi saying that there was absolutely election interference by Russia. They had pushed this so hard. They used that, like, almost like a nuclear weapon kind of thing. Like, once you've used it, you can't put it back. The other side can justify using it. And they did that by calling the previous election a sham. But with their whole Russia investigation, that is what they were doing. So now, cannot possibly take, regardless of how far-fetched or not any kind of allegation from Trump is, they have started this precedent, and the Republicans are completely justified in following it.
Well, the thing is that you have to wonder how much of this was, in fact, in the books, like how much of this was cooked up, because it is incredible in terms of all the things that were said against Trump and against Republicans, that now the Republicans and the right are saying against the left, where there's far, far more evidence of it being true. And it's amazing of that. Like I say, there's a lot at stake here, not just because, Joe Biden's scary, like I keep saying, but because of like the precedents that it will set if he is elected president, like if he is actually put into office. It will set an unbelievably dangerous precedent where I think it might radicalize people on the right. And I fear that. Like, I want people to be radicalized in that, like, my beliefs is that, like, people are radicalized enough to where they become nationalists and full-throated nationalists. And then underneath the surface is just me and a collection of other people that are pushing forward nativist politics. That's my goal. But the fear that I have is that people become black-pilled to where they basically give up on the system. And I think that this is the kind of thing that will definitely spur that on. The idea that the elections are now phony and that the right is going to go along with that, that they're going to accept the fact that these numbers are bogus, to where, like I say, especially in Michigan, the numbers are not unbelievable in terms of popularity. it's like 130% of the voter rolls, to where it's impossible that the ballots on file are not legal. And it's beyond that of even it's not even 100% turnout, it's 130% turnout, which isn't possible. And so the issue is if that passes, then we will have had a fraudulent election in this country, and at a minimum, probably 3 states. I would say 3 states where it is provably fraudulent. And if that happens, like, I don't want that to happen, because I'm afraid that people are going to get blackpilled, and that basically the left is going to do this in every election now.
Wait, since we are talking about the election, I'll give my election spiel to you that I've given to other people. In that you're seeing the stuff on the surface right now, you're seeing the stuff that's public, and I have from some very reliable people that I know personally, who have some very good information from very provable sources, that a lot of stuff we are not going to see publicly, because it's possibly going in sealed court records at some point. But there is a huge fight going on right now for the soul of the nation in terms of the deep state and its involvement in this election. And if it ever sees the light, the problem is it might not see the light of day. But if it does ever see the light of day, holy shit! It'll make Trump's current efforts look like, he's splashing around in the kiddie pool.
I don't disbelieve that is going on at the moment, because it seems like I say, that in this how I tie it back, the internationalists had a plan, and it requires the United States to be at the forefront of it. And with someone in office who is at a minimum quasi-nationalist, they can't get what they want. They can't push this whole thing forward. And it's very clear that this is all going somewhere, that there's intention behind all of this, that this is all going somewhere. And with Trump especially, he is just the one thing that is standing in the way. That it seems like all these Republicans in the party, not the base, certainly not the base.
Yeah,
I would say that with the Republican Party, at most, like the neocons, the neoliberals, and like the wishy-washy types, the people that people despise, people that say are rhinos, Republicans in name only, that is at most like 4 or 5% of the entire party. And like the other 95% are a variety, a diverse variety of just basic nationalists. That they even differ on what is conservatism, like what their philosophical conservatism is, but they are all nationalists, and that is the appeal that Trump has. And so that's why I say it's a matter of retaining what we have for long enough so that all of the internationalists that are in the party are just replaced. And they will be replaced. That in the long term, as the party gets more and more, like, it's why I can't stand the term, and it needs to be dropped, ASAP, Trumpism or populism. We're not the majority. We are not the majority, so we are not populous. And the fact is that Trump is just Trump, and there's no ideology based around him. He is a basic bitch quasi-nationalist. The reality is nationalism.
I could never really actually concentrate on what kind of ideology Trump even is. He just seems to do what he feels like, and that's basically it.
He's a nationalist. He likes America, and he's pragmatic. That's kind of it. He's also a New York socialite. He has that angle to him. Whilst we've actually been on air, Trump's just actually pardoned Michael Flynn. So.
Really? Good for him.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that's what I hope. That's the thing, though. We got to have, if Trump wins re-election, again, long-term, positive. I'm saying it's a white pill if he wins re-election. We got a lot of things in it. We got a lot of irons in the fire if that's the case. If he loses, then it's reassessing. But if he wins re-election, what I am so desperate, what I am craving is full return. And not just I'm angry, I'm going to be loud on Twitter, but like I say, just Dongzo mode of I'm going to come in and I am just going to fucking go after everyone who even questioned me. Anyone that questioned me, you're gone. You're done. And the thing is that it isn't just, lol for the lols, we get revenge, play some memes on Twitter. It is basically Trump shitting out all of the worst bureaucrats in our federal governments that are all internationalists, every single one to a T, and bringing in people that are more ideologically aligned with him. And that is going to set a tremendous precedence, because the fact is that if you are a nationalist, you are not like a foaming at the mouth ideologue. You are simply a normal person, because most
of America, the thing is, he's in tune with that. They make fun of it, but he's in tune with that middle of America kind of flag waving pickup truck shit. That is America. That is still what Americans are, no matter what the people in the cities will try and tell you. Even they're the minority in their own cities. Most Americans in the cities are still like that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So I'm going to say, what you're saying is he is in tune just with the heart of America. And I think people know that kind of implicitly. And the disdain that the American left has for those people, for normal Americans, for, normal flag-waving, God-fearing Americans. Just for the average Joe in America, the level of hate that they have for that person is unfathomable, because deep down they know that person has the same kind of belief system and the same view of America that Trump does.
Yeah.
And that's why they voted for him.
Well, the fact is that with Trump and the people that he has been bringing in, not all, obviously, because he had all the neocons he brought in initially during the first parts of the administration, but when it comes to these bureaucrats that he can be bringing in, when it comes to the average American, especially one of these more solidly middle class or even working class Americans, or even slightly, up that of like upper middle class, if they actually have skin in the game and they believe in the nation, one of the things that you will see, and this is to a T for these people, is that they have a solid belief in fairness. And so it's not this like, oh, we're calling for the opposite. We're going to bring in a bunch of partisan right wingers that are just going to go after leftists and hurt leftists. You're going to be bringing in decent people that are going to try to be fair in what they do. And that to me is like, if we're going to have the bureaucrats, we might as well have people that just in terms of their own nature are just good people. That is how, that's what defines them, is that they just try to be fair, and that you can't have people like that in government. I've met them. I've also met the people that you don't want in government, who are, as far as I can tell, that's all Barack Obama did in his 8 years, was bring in the worst possible people in government. The worst kind of people you want in government. That's all he did during those 8 years, was bring those people into the government. And it requires us to basically fire all of them and bring in decent people. And you have no idea the difference that'll make.
You are right. And he can do that. He can be a lot more. I think if he does get back in, he'll just have nothing to lose. He'll be incredibly more aggressive. But to bring it back to the topic at hand, I guess, to full circle here, here is someone who was the former press secretary of the DNC. Again, with all these truth and reconciliation shit, this is the other one I was thinking of. Sorry, it took me ages to find this because there's just been so many of them. Harry Savagnin? I don't know. He looks like some kind of
Savagin.
Who do you
some kind of
under?
Bajit? Yeah, whatever. I too know how to work a toilet. This just reported White House staff are starting to look for jobs. Employees considering them should know that there are consequences of hiring anyone who helped Trump attack American values. And he's the one who advertised the Trump Accountability Project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Going back full circle here.
Yeah.
But it's the, I could never see someone on the right doing this, honestly.
No.
Even if that they are proved to have committed voter fraud, I can't imagine someone on the right going, oh yeah, anyone who worked for Biden's campaign in any capacity, yeah, you shouldn't hire those people. Those people should be excluded from the economic process. No one's going to do that because we don't know who knew what. There might have been some very earnest people in there. There probably were some very earnest people in there. And it's just, you're right, it's this asymmetrical, I guess, lack of morality that they have no.
Well, it's not even. It's a rejection of morality. I don't want to really lay into this too much, but it's basically the way by which that we think about things. I mean us. It is through the Christian ethos, and I say this as an atheist. Like that is the lens by which that we view fairness. And these people have completely rejected that. Yeah. These people have completely rejected that. And it's why, even though when you hear the Christians going hog wild on they're Satanists or devil worshippers and all this, it's basically they're too hyperbolic. But I think that in some sense they are right. I do think that because fairness is a virtue that no matter how like realpolitik I can get, like I've never rejected the principle and the virtue around fairness. I've never abandoned that. I still believe in that. And I think that these people, in all honesty, have looked at that concept and they have said, it doesn't matter. This is something stupid. This is something blithe. Like, this is something some middle-class retard believes in. Like, I think that these people they've gotten so wrapped up in the utopian nature of their pursuit that they think that, like, what we consider to be virtuous is also tied into being a nationalist. And so that if you want to ascend beyond that of living in a nation state, how antiquated that is, it also comes along, because none of these people are big Christians. That's one of the things that I see, is that all the post-nationalists, all the internationalists, none of them are like full-throated Christians or evangelicals. None, zero. And so it says to me, like, it doesn't mean that the Christian right is right about everything and the rest of it, but it does stand out that possibly one of the reasons why these people are doing what they're doing is because they have, in effect, rejected the Christian ethos.
I think that it's really it's that nebulous idea of more Western values that people try and pin down and talk about. And a lot of people shy away from the Judeo-Christian underpinnings of our legal system, of our governmental systems, of our cultures. Again, I more so in the UK, I guess, in the US. But yeah, I think they both share a fairness culture, and a lot of the UK, kind of the UK legal system and the UK, parliamentary system, in a sense, the spirit of it has carried over to the US because of how they founded and how they split away from being the colonies. And it's something I go back to. It's kind of the man in the pub effect, that the average American and average Brit has a sense of what they know is fair, and that generally is pretty universal. So maybe like it's if someone's a native Briton, like say maybe 90 to 95% of British people will agree on a set of values and a set of things that they think are fair. And I'd say it's probably less so in America because of that horrendous divide you have between the cities and the country. And we more so have, I guess both nations have a extremely bad track record of the last 20 years of having just uncontrolled fire hose level mass immigration. Before Bush, it was really, really, really bad in the US. And, it's kind of gone up and down here in the UK, but basically since 1997, all of our population growth has been led by immigration.
Yeah, I would say the difference is definitely more noticeable in your country when it comes to housing. We have a problem with housing. And I'm sitting here, it's like my father knows 2 developers for housing, like building houses, that have gone bankrupt and then basically had a rebound and come back and are now millionaires again. And it's like, in the United States, a housing crisis is like a joke. A housing crisis is basically where there's so many houses on the market that no one could possibly sell them.
Honestly, it's one of the reasons why I've been considering moving to America on several occasions, because you can actually get a house in America. And you can get a nice house over here.
Yeah, I have a house, and again, it's everyone's so crammed together here in the UK. It's almost like being in Japan in some ways, but without a lot of bullshit.
Yes. And that's why I was looking at earlier this year. I was strongly considering moving to Texas. Like, I would still love to do that. I'm not sure. I mean,
my exes live.
My understanding of American immigration is, particularly under the Democrats, they look more favorably to immigrants from third world nations, and they're not necessarily looking for immigrants from Europe. As a Brit, it's very hard to immigrate over to America.
Oh, it is. I actually went partly through the process at one point, because I have a skill set which is extremely in demand in the US. It's one of the few things you can really get reliable work visas for is mechanical engineering.
Yep.
Because the thing you are most short of is mechanical engineers in the US. It is basically the top category. And even then, you have to show you have a job offer on the table. You have to prove you have a certain level of assets, and then you have to get legal assistance. Basically, by default, you have to go through several layers of process. Even if you do have a job waiting for you, even if you do have no criminal record, even if you can prove that you have over £50,000 in assets, show that you can support yourself. Even then, you have to go through a ridiculous multi-year process to become even a resident. Never mind a citizen.
My thing is that it's the fact that there is just a two-tier immigration. There's two-tier immigration laws and two-tier immigration priority. And the thing is that I like the whole thing of like economic sustainability. Like it's just like a farce. Like what you went through is a farce. It's basically all for show. And it's because we all know, and anyone that pays attention to American immigration knows that the people that actually have something to bring have a difficult time getting in, and there's a long ass line.
Yeah.
That there's also just tens and tens of thousands of fucking scumbag third worlders who still don't speak the language after 10 years of being here, that somehow navigate their way in easily. And again, it's like, it's the powers that be. It's a very serious question of like, I still think that there should be a thorough vetting process, but economically, I don't even care. Economic, I don't care because I think it depresses wages no matter what. There's a labor pool that exists, and if you bring more people in, it depresses wages, period. There's more people competing for one job. And to me, I don't even care. Bring in whoever for whatever skill set. But all I need to know is, are they loyal to this state? Are they loyal to this nation? Are they loyal to the people here? And if they can't answer those questions, they shouldn't be allowed in. And I think that it should be limited directly to who can come in. But in terms of the third worlders that are coming in, that is the first priority, because all those people are, and we can see this with Ilhan Omar and a few other instances of this, they're just cattle. That's who they're bringing in, cattle for the plantation. That's all it is. It's not even about jobs. It's about votes.
Yeah. And, I think it's something that your average European immigrant in America is more likely to vote Republican.
Maybe.
I did hear about like Republicans prior to Trump kind of banning immigration due to COVID. I did hear about a kind of like they were making a more streamlined process for immigration applicants from Ireland. Which is what my boyfriend was hoping to use, and then I would be able to come over with him that way.
We were hoping for one from the UK as well, but that got scuppered because they wouldn't let anyone who was pro-Brexit negotiate on our behalf under Theresa May, and it got kind of killed there. There were some very strong overtures to the UK from the Trump administration, some of which came via Nigel Farage, and they basically deliberately scuppered all of that because they were trying to make sure that we stayed in the EU. It's an absolute disgrace. It's one of the worst things that's happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know, with Boris Johnson congratulating Joe Biden on being president, I don't know how good the relationship will be. I think Trump's got a very good chance of getting back in too. And I fear that Trump will just say, fuck you all for doing that.
I desperately, and I don't mean to speak ill of the UK because I want you to do well, because it pretty much is the Anglosphere of the world compared to everyone else seeking tyranny for themselves and the rest of us. But the problem is that if Boris Johnson is still prime minister, and if Trump wins his re-election, there should be repercussions for that tweet. And as far as I know, the trade deal still isn't signed between us and the UK, and there should be repercussions. And what I would like to see is basically Trump, and this is what I would do, and the thing is that when it comes to international relations, there's two ways to play it. There's basically the Obama model of bowing, basically in the way of when he did to the Japanese emperor, I believe it was, where he just bows like really deeply, and it's just look at it like, okay, come on, bro. When again, Obama should be the most powerful man in the world. The only reason there is an emperor still in Japan is because we decided that was fine. He's basically without any power because we decided that. So bowing to him, you could bow, but there's a way in which you do it. And then there is the Lyndon B. Johnson style of politics, which is where you basically throw your weight around and you don't care. And the thing is, Ronald Reagan did some of this. Nixon did some of this. You throw your weight around. And in the UK, basically all Trump could do was put out like a sort of innocuous, pithy tweet like, well, I want to make a deal with the UK, but I'm dealing with somebody who doesn't even believe that I'm president, so we can't have a deal. I think that in the UK, you're going to have to find somebody that actually thinks that I'm president, and then I'll deal with them. And obviously, the intention isn't to have them resign or anything else. It's to put pressure on the system in the UK and to put the dirty finger on Boris Johnson so that people within the party will look at him, slam their hand on the desk and be like, see, I told you that there would be consequences to this.
Yeah.
We need all this to work. We got an election coming up. We need all this to work out. And you just fucked it. You just fucked this whole thing because of what you did with that. And it's a method of disruption that is very helpful, not just towards us, but towards you as well. Because what you want in your country is not someone who's going to dick suck to the United States, but simply an effective leader that understands what to say and how to be an actual statesman.
I think you're right, though, about the trickle down, the effect that America's policies, its international policy, its domestic policy has around the world. If it's said if America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. And it's still true, especially with the predicament China's put itself in by basically alienating every other country that exists, especially around it in Asia. China is in an extremely precarious position right now.
Trump hasn't played up like xenophobia, like genuine xenophobia or anti-Chinese sentiment that I would in fact embrace, because I see China as a threat. And every fucking Chinese person in this country is apparently a fucking spy.
Well,
that was my last video.
They did show that in Canada. That basically the entire Chinese diaspora there was used to strip Canada of medical supplies, so it would be more vulnerable.
Yeah. I know
If they did
talking about.
Tens of thousands of Chinese people acted as CCP agents there. It was very telling of what would happen if the loyalties were ever called upon, let's say. But I don't know. I don't want to get too off track here.
I mean, we
have one more topic to cover, I think, very quickly.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, very quick. Before we do so, just
super
go over
chats, yes.
Yeah, a few more super chats. Jedi Knight Anakin Cringewalker with the $5. What the establishment fears most is joggers and grillers discovering the person stealing their meat is the same person.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And that could
exactly
happen. There's a lot of people that have written off black people. And while I would say that the pandering that went on during Trump's campaign, I disagree with, and I don't think was very effective. And I do think the numbers reflect that, that there is a chance that eventually enough black people in the United States will come around that the Democrats will be fucked. And that's why they're so desperate for amnesty and all this other immigration. They are afraid that the Republicans, through trial and error, are going to figure out how to have a winning message towards blacks, and it's nationalism, by the way. Meet some black people. You'll find a lot of nationalists.
Yeah.
You'll see that
telling people.
They will start risking the chance at losing states like New York. And I mean that. Because they'll lose all the big cities. And it's just a matter of if the Republicans in the law, immigration is essential, because if you keep the people that we have here now, there is a good chance that the Republicans, just based on inertia, are going to take enough people that the states that people say, oh, they went blue and they're never going to come back. Yeah, people are saying that shit about Florida.
And Mr. Twisted Frenzy with the €5. I think the Diabito meme came out of a cutaway joke from Family Guy. I think that's the Winford Brimley diabetes. Yeah. So anyway, we'll just cover the story quick because I'm aware of how long we've been on. So this is another kind of related to, well, it is social justice in action. Concerning Jordan Peterson. So Penguin Random House staff broke down in tears over them releasing the Jordan Peterson's latest book. So apparently they had a big meeting where they discussed his new book, Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life. And this sparked an emotional outcry.
Literally shaking and crying.
Literally, yeah. So if you remember that woman who was screaming no when Trump was inaugurated, we're talking an entire room of people like that. And now, and I saw a really interesting Twitter thread about this, where the guy kind of pointed out that these are the same people who talk about like white fragility, masculine fragility, and all of that. But these people themselves are so fragile that they will cry because a book is being published by someone who they don't like. And just as an example of another book that Penguin publish, Mein Kampf. Nice. They publish Mein Kampf, but it's Jordan Peterson that is the.
Isn't that true? Amazon? Didn't Amazon do the same thing?
Yeah, they did. Basically, they did. Amazon. There's been a whole bunch of shit with people republishing books, though. And I need to do a roundup of it at some point. But there's been a lot of people who have first editions of books and who have republished editions of books. Especially books that are more nationalist or more controversial, have found that the books have actually been edited.
Yeah,
in certain ways, it's relatively common. I know one of them. I need to find it again, but there are images that show there's whole sections missing from certain books. There's wording changed. There's bits added to make them seem more extreme. It's a whole thing with the republishing of controversial books that they are not the same as they were when they were originally published.
It reminds me of what was it? Will to Power from Friedrich Nietzsche, who he died, and then his sister published his work and then added a bunch of Nazi shit into it.
Yeah,
it reminds me of that. And I have no doubt that that's going on because again, like they are these people that we are against. They are playing the long game.
I mean, you have Amazon staff openly sabotaging like recent books that have been sent out as well, like defacing them.
Yeah,
it happened with Candace Owens. I think it happened with Dave Rubin. I know it happened with Deborah So. A load of her latest books were vandalized after being sent out, and I believe that was Amazon. It's another example of these kind of the cry bullies. This is what they are. They're crying to get their own way. They're throwing their tantrums about. And they were fairly successful in getting books pulled from, I think it was from Target, although they were eventually reinstated, simply over like one tweet questioning them selling things. Abigail Schreier's book on like trans children, like just one tweet got that pulled. So in a way, I'm kind of surprised that Penguin didn't bend the knee to these people.
Money. The thing is, it's going to make them fucking millions. When it comes to the market, when it comes to their actual bottom line, they still at least know where their bread is buttered. They may bend the knee and they may give out rhetoric, but when it is going to cost them materially, that's another vector here that a lot of the right hasn't been good. Again, you're right, it needs to be mutually assured destruction. If you step over this line, if you do this, we will hurt you so much materially, financially, that it will not be worth it. So don't step over this line. It's like what happened with the NFL or the NBA. Like if you look at the numbers they've got, they basically are still in free fall. Yeah. Nobody, even though everyone's indoors, nobody's watching sports because they're disgusted by the politics that have been injected into it. It's that effect here, and their employees can cry all they want, but they're going to publish this book that's going to make them millions of fucking dollars. That's just the way it is.
I find like the amount of people who've been tuning out to the NBA in particular to be fascinating. Like that I found weird, especially as like something like the NBA. It's quite often more associated with kind of black audiences compared to other sports, and yet then kind of sticking with the Black Lives Matter rhetoric and really kind of going all in on the politics that seems to have impacted them more than it's impacted the NFL. From what I've seen, would you say that's right?
Yeah, I would say that I don't know the exact reason why it's more effective with the people that enjoy basketball, but with the example football, it doesn't seem to be as prominent as far as I can tell. And that for whatever reason, people that are fans of football are like more pathological fans. Like they're just far more ingrained into it. Yeah. And people like my father, for example, who's a huge football fan and always has been, he just ignores it. I asked him about it more than once about the propaganda, and he just kind of does what he does when he just ignores the question and doesn't say anything. And it's just a matter of, I think that that's true for a lot of people that enjoy football, is that it's not super prevalent, other than it seems like the most that there is with the announcers, that the announcers will talk about it. But that in terms of like the symbolism, there's only so much. It's like somebody has something on their shoulder pad or some bullshit. It's not as in your face as it was in basketball. And in basketball, dude, it was everywhere. It was ubiquitous.
It was. And their ratings dropped proportionally, I think, even more. Like the NBA is at one of its lowest levels, I think, ever right now in terms of like proportion of what it should be in terms of population. It's just ridiculous how much their audience share has dropped. It's it really is a get woke, go broke story in its rawest sense.
Yeah, and with football, I wouldn't say that that's true. It's been get woke, go broke. I think COVID has done more damage than anything to football.
Yeah.
But to basketball specifically, yes, I think that it is legitimate. Like, you could put it on a list of get woke, go broke, because they were over the top with it. I saw examples of like a dozen different games, and it was just, dude, everyone's wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt. All their uniforms got Black Lives Matter shit. The sideline had Black Lives Matter shit. The stands have Black Lives Matter shit. It is everywhere. And I would say that you could correlate it. That if football was more like that, I would think that more people would have stopped watching.
Yeah. So long as all this politics doesn't infect my favorite American sport, extreme bull riding.
Oh,
that's where I will draw the line.
Well, the only venue by which, the only medium by which that I care about is gaming, and it has already been destroyed.
Yeah. Gaming was destroyed a long time ago, as far as I'm concerned.
It was okay up until about 2010, and then things started getting really bad, and they've never stopped.
If only you knew how bad things really are. I need another meme for that.
But like, I just want it to stay away from my bulls. I really like bull riding for some reason. I know it's such like a random sport, but it's really fascinating to watch, and it's kind of like the most American sport that I can think of. It's like a proper.
You like all that cowboy shit? You like the rodeos?
I love rodeos. Like, this is another reason why I wanted to move to Texas. Because I want to go somewhere where I could go to a rodeo and wear a cowboy hat.
Wait till we get you a gun. You'll want to move to Texas even.
Yes. Yeah.
What if you had a gun?
That's it. This is one of the reasons why I want to move to America. I could have a gun, a cowboy hat, and go to the rodeo.
Yeah, if you live in certain parts of this country, you can get away with like dressing up in the flannel and the jeans and the cowboy boots and all that stuff, and people see it as like chic, like, oh, that's cool, like, and it'll be everyone else wearing similar kind of things. But if you wear that kind of stuff around here, you're gonna get basically a collection of people, like wiggers all the way to like middle class people like me, suburban people like me, all following after you, busting your balls.
I just want to look cool in my cowboy hat. I've seen them
when I was in San Antonio, when I went to PAC South a few years ago. People just do wear cowboy boots around. They just do wear hats and cowboy boots.
Well, it's a whole kind of culture, and it's not like any kind of like nonsense. It is like good old boys who make those boots, and that is basically their trade.
Yeah,
and they put an enormous amount of effort into it.
Comfy.
And it goes through like generations, like going back however far of generations of families that do that kind of thing. So there is a bona fide side to that kind of culture.
Yeah, well, it's like the cowboy hats.
Same deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was it might have been one of the people who've been murdered by Antifa this year.
Yeah, he made hats.
Cowboy hat maker.
Yeah,
well, because I guess it gets so hot in Texas. But I've also seen people who are, they're not they're in shorts and t-shirt, but they're not going for a pocket pistol. I've seen people just like fully strapped, just open carrying in summer, just because I know there's a lot of people who don't want to print and stuff. But I guess it's more of a thing in Texas as well. It goes back and forth on open carry. Sometimes not a good idea, depending on the situation. But
it's a difference in laws too. I'm pretty sure, because in New York you can't open carry whatsoever, but you can conceal carry once you get the license, and that takes a while. But I think in some states it's the opposite, where conceal carry is the problem. Like they frown upon it or whatever, and open carry is the norm, and that's accepted.
I remember Dankula telling a story that he went into, I think it was like a Dairy Queen or something. He was in Texas, and he went in there, and the 3 guys in front of him in line were all open carrying, and because he talked about that, and he was like, "It's the safest I've ever felt in my entire life." He said,
Yeah. You'll usually run into people. The people that are really serious about guns are usually very good with them, and so that typically the problem is the people who are gun enthusiasts who have old shitty guns that are not built well and that have all kinds of design
the
flaws.
FUDs. Let's talk about the FUDs in the 1911s. Because sorry,
go ahead. No, I had nothing else.
I gotta say, as a Brit, I'm actually someone who has a decent amount of shooting experience for a Brit because I've done quite a lot of shooting in Eastern Europe, and in my kind of stints in the US, I always try get as much range time as possible. So I've actually shot quite a variety of firearms, and have not as much with rifles, honestly, because it's hard to get to a range that will let you use even like 5.56.
I know what you mean.
But with kind of like defensive handguns, I have quite a lot of trigger timing and quite a lot of range experience. I've kind of added it up. It's added up over the years, and it's I don't know. It's something. It's extremely hard to explain to a lot of Eurofags. Well,
I don't know what to say other than like I've challenged a bunch of people on this, and maybe even Dev, that I've said that like fly over, come to Buffalo, New York, and we're gonna go on a street called Bailey Avenue. We're gonna go there at 10 o'clock at night. And you and I are going to walk down that road unarmed. Well, I'll be armed. You'll be unarmed. And we're going to walk down that road together. And I want you to talk to me about about owning a firearm. Because I've had it happen. I have had basically a walking stereotype from like a horror movie of a scarred 40-year-old grizzly black man pull a Glock out of his waistband and stick it in my face and threaten to murder me because I was parked too close to his house. And once you have something like that happen to you, you realize that like there is a need for gun ownership, because it's not about the reliance on the system, the police, or better society. It's just simply the practical reality of if somebody has a gun and they are willing to take your life, your only choice is to also be carrying. That is the only option that you have. And I think a lot of people, like, they live in these like cushy, like rich parts of cities, or they live in like upper middle class suburbs, and they've never met somebody who's a criminal. They've never met somebody who's like irrational or deviant or violent. And they fundamentally think that like we've moved beyond the use of force.
We just need social workers and de-escalation experts.
Exactly. And they don't, and as well, they basically in their utopian nature have abandoned the idea that there is a moral use of force. That there is such a thing as using force that is the moral thing. They've rejected that outright.
Yeah. So I'm aware of that the stream's getting on a bit now.
Yeah, we'll be closing out. We've upset the FUDs, though. We've upset the FUDs. Yes.
9/11s are awesome. You stink.
That's the wrong one. There we go. So thank you, Matthew. So Scrump, do you have any good news for us this week?
Just let me. Sorry, I had that up, but I closed it. If you just give me tell you what, I'll tell you the good news if we get people to start voting in the poll, and I'll tell people the good news as they're voting.
Okay. Let me just get the straw poll link and post it in the chat, because some people might not check the description. So the straw poll link is also in the description. So vote on who you want to give the seal of approval to this week. So, Scrump, what is your good news?
I'm trying to dig the story out. So I just thought I actually think I might have lost it.
The seals of news.
You know what the problem with this video is that it would be a lot funnier if, like, in the background there was some kind of music playing, like gangster rap or something like that. That would make this video immensely more funny to me. Or especially if the guy in the gorilla suit was also like decked out in some kind of strange streetwear, like just look totally, not just the mask, but just look totally bizarre. That would also make this a lot funnier. I think it's more like cute. I think that's what it is.
And it's just a seal having a fun drive. He's having a fun drive.
If we're going to take any more time in this stream, I need to disavow the entire UK for not allowing American vehicles in their country because of their stupid roadway system.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to replace my good news with shilling and say the good news this week is that I'm finally making content.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
The actual news I was going to give is that once again, I like being a research and medical fag and saying that there's, I think it was about a breakthrough in at-home kind of early warning cancer testing that kind of empowers people to take more responsibility for their own health rather than relying on our creaking, ridiculous medical systems. And a lot of technology is being used to help people be more aware of how healthy they are or how unhealthy they are and to take more control of that. But I can't actually find the story right now, I'm afraid.
Well, I have some good news. And it's the seal of the week.
Aha, yes. I thought
seal of the week.
It wasn't the one in the car, is it?
It wasn't the one in the car. It's this week's seal of the week is just a load of grey seals that they're expected to welcome 4,000 new baby seals in a record baby boom.
Aha.
And that's really good.
Oh no, seal boomers.
Seal boomers.
No.
So they live. There's a massive like plump of grey seals in Norfolk, and like they are normally, like I think it's like one of the biggest colonies in the UK. I mean, like the grey seal, I think it's like almost 50% of all grey seals in the world live in the British Isles. So these are proper British seals.
Real British seals. I'm worried though that this is a seal baby boom, and in 40 years they will have crashed the seal housing market. But
so yeah, there's a grey seal, and so yeah, those seals are part of, that they've done themselves a good job. So is everyone ready to find out who gets the seal of approval?
Yes.
The drum roll, scrump. And it's Louis.
Yes, Louis.
13 votes. Landslide.
Overwhelmed. I'm calling election fraud. I demand a recount. It's statistically no. Yeah. Well done, Pastor Louis. Your sermons have earned you many a follow.
Well, I gotta say that I'm not very surprised. I mean, this is pretty much what happens. But very humbly put. But yeah, I mean, I just I try to get down to the direct nature of exactly what we're talking about and how so many of these things intercede, and they almost always do.
Well, that's why we have you on, Louis. That's why we have you on.
No, it's been great having you on again.
And thank you for coming. Yes.
Yep. No problem.
And so I am like, just to everyone, I'm very, very much hoping that my kind of hiatus from YouTube is coming to an end. Like I'm feeling in a better position than I was a few weeks ago. So I'm hoping that my hiatus is, should be over very soon. But thanks everyone for your supportive messages. I've really, really appreciated hearing from everyone. But seal of approval is going to go back to its usual Wednesday time. I think especially as Scrump now has his own channel and his own streams. So it's going to be the Scrump's B show to the seal of approval A show.
I'm it might be tomorrow. I'm not sure, but there should be a actual live Dumping with Scrump coming quite soon. We're planning it for tomorrow on Dev's channel, but you know how Dev can be. If that doesn't happen, though, there will be a stream on Friday on my channel, focusing on the Boris betrayal, and doing a bit more of a as fun as you can stream about that. Let's say,
yeah.
But yes, thanks for coming, guys.
Louis, do you have anything to plug?
I guess find me on Twitter at Louis Levi, which is spelled a little bit differently than how it's said, and you can find me on YouTube, and I do all kinds of stuff there as well. And if you like it, then subscribe. If you don't, then subscribe anyways.
There's a link in the description to both Scrump and Louis' channels, so go check them out. British Seal, not British Steel. I agree with that. So anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks to Scrump and Louis for joining me this evening. Thanks to everyone who has sent in super chats. Thanks to all of you for watching, and thanks to this seal who's still lost. Bless him. Thanks.
They're just driving around in circles.
Thanks everyone. I'll see you all next time.
Bye.